Of course. Of course. Of course. All right, YouTube and Rumble family, can you hear me? What's good? What's good? YouTube and Rumble family. Let's see. Can you guys even hear me? Oh boy, let's see. What's this noise all about? If not, we're going to have to do it on StreamYard. Hopefully, you guys could hear me and there isn't a noise issue. Or what about now? Hoping you guys could at least hear me a little bit. Woo, 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 woo. I shouldn't even be doing this. Oh, you can hear me. Amazing. Perfect, perfect. How's everything, Mr. Half Warrior? Yes, sir. So YouTube and Rumble family, amazing, amazing, good. We are in positive contact with one another. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the first ever True Earth Tuesday, a spinoff of Flat Earth Friday, something that everybody's used to. Well, much of us are used to these last few years, right? And this apparently is my first one. So I'm here for it, here for the smoke, here to welcome you guys. And hey, we're going to discuss everything from True Earth, Flat Earth, Real Earth, Globe Earth, and everything in between. So, of course, everything else, news, conspiracy theories, baked goods. I love baked goods. And if you like baked goods, this is the place to be. You know what I'm saying? So I'm all about my baked goods and pastries. So if you want to discuss it, we can discuss it here. So anyway, aside from all that craziness, how's everybody doing? Not here to waste your time, but instead, I'm here to provide you with something that you could take home and you could discuss amongst your family, your friends, your enemies, even, and everybody else out there, right? Stuff that'll engage conversation and positive thought. So, of course, it being the first one fresh out the box today, figured I'd talk about something that I just came across. So, I don't know, one of the videos that I'd produced earlier when I started doing the YouTubes a lot more often. By the way, Mr. Half Warrior, I appreciate you for showing up. Thank you very much. Everybody else, it's not my fault. Things happen. So we're going to have to press on. I offered you what I promised anyway. Uh, anyway, let me move right along. So there has been a lot of speculation as to what we've been doing out in quote unquote space, right? This being, outer space, inner space, whatever, but space, what we're used to. I'm talking about the expanse, the vast expanse, the stars, the moon, all that stuff. What we originally thought was space with the vacuum and all that other stuff. We've learned recently that it might not just be that. And we learned that obviously through the true Earth. And if you don't know what the true Earth is, that's originally what the flat Earth is. But so that we don't have any kind of confusion or any of that other craziness, we're calling it true Earth. It's 2024. It is the true Earth, right? Enough of the lies, enough of the BS. So back to what I was saying. I had produced a video as to what the moon is, right? And it was more along the lines of flat out fudge, how's everything, brother? All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming. It's more along the lines of what the moon produces. So in that video, I did a temperature check, right? And, you know, let me go ahead. I'm going to keep talking, but I'm at the same time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to present you with what it was I'm talking about. So in that temperature check, I uh I learned something. I learned that the moon does not give us heat like I originally did think, right? So we're all brought up to think that the moon produces some kind of heat. It does give us light. That's obvious, right? And since it's reflected sunlight, much of what we're taught when we're kids and younger, We figure it produces heat just like the sun does, right? An appreciable amount of heat. Now, maybe not the same exact thing. Cool. I learned that night that that doesn't produce the heat that I once thought it did. So with that, I figured, hey, all right, if it doesn't produce heat, what is it giving us? Obviously, it's giving us some kind of cooling effect. And I'm only using cooling effect because that's the only thing that my brain could wrap around what it is I'm giving. Instead of giving us a positive number, it gives us a totally different number. I'm looking for the vid right now, and I'm going to provide it to you guys here in a second, right? So this is along with this being my first live, you guys are just going to have to bear with me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to do this whole video mashup thing, but I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it just slowly but surely. So bear with me, right? So I figured if we're not getting heat and we're getting a cooling effect, for example, I got a negative, or rather, I got less of a number when comparing the moonlight to the shadow adjacent to it, right? So what I figured was it has to be providing us something because it can't just provide nothing. Even though it's a cooling effect, it has to provide us with some way to give us some kind of energy or something. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the smartest guy around. I'm a former electrician in my former life, in my former Navy life. And so we did things like we learned things like direct current through a battery and alternating current through things like a generator and everything, right? Or using things like EMF, right? Electromotive or electromagnetic. It's been a while since I've been an electrician, so just bear with me. So just understanding basic principles like that, having a positive and a negative alteration, I know that we would have a continuous stream of energy, right? Or a continuous stream of power of some sort, right? So of electricity. So I figured, hey, then this is the perfect thing to help me get around as to what the sun and the moon not necessarily is, but how they function on this in this realm. So then it pulled me further away from this earth being a ball spinning and hurtling throughout space, spinning around the sun, getting what we get, doing what we thought that it does. Lumens, thank you. Lumens. So I learned then that that's not at all the case. So what sucks about it though is that with everything that I learned, right, originally, and what I mean by everything that I learned, I'm talking about astronomical wise, we had to throw all of that out of the window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you with right here in the chat, Control V, there it is. Boom. I hope you could see that. That right there is that video that I'm talking about. Can I even play the video? Man, Ghost of Judah Tribe. He originally is one of those guys that gets on here, right? And he's doing his Flat Earth Friday. His he's got his channel. I highly recommend checking him out and subscribing to his channel as well. And God bless you, Ghost, for getting me to where I'm at. Right. But even with his channel and everything, like he knows how to do these things and he picks them up just like that. So me, I'm learning. Shannon Emerson, awesome. Happy to have you here. So going back to what I was saying, sorry that I detracted from everything that I was saying, but going back to the moon. Yes, the moon. And so it showed me that yes, this plane definitely isn't what we thought that it was, or there's a very good chance that it's not what we originally thought that it was. It being a ball hurtling throughout space, doing all the other stuffs, yada yada yada. So now I just saw another video, right? This video is from one of my favorite channels. So right there, what I just provided you is a link to my original video of when I took a temperature test of the moon light on a full moon compared to the shadow adjacent to it, right? After I did that temperature test, I noticed something. Originally, I thought I was going to get an increase in temperature when I compared the moonlight to the shadow. Instead, I got the total opposite. And this threw me off. I mean, even though I'd seen the experiments, but at the same time, I just didn't believe it. I hope that makes sense. Like, even when you see something happen, unless you do it yourself, you don't believe that nonsense. So, me, myself, I decided to do my due diligence and run the experiment. So I got the calculator, I got the thermometer, to the infrared thermometer, excuse me. Did the test. I got two planks of cardboard. One side of that cardboard covered in black tape, the other side covered in tinfoil. Right. Both of the cardboards, I did that. One of the cardboards was right there in the shadow, the other cardboard exposed to the moonlight. So before doing this, I went ahead and I ran a temperature test of both those cardboards on both sides, both the tape side and the tinfoil side, and they both registered at around 63 degrees. That's how cool it was inside my, or warm it was inside my house at the time, right? This was last year around January timeframe. I go ahead, I bring these two planks outside, go ahead and I run the experiment. When I run the experiment, it leaves me with the question, what can I now do with this knowledge that I have? So me being who I am, I feel that I'm a tinkerer. I like to tinker with things and I like to toy with things, especially when I have them at my disposal. But if I ain't got nothing, I have to do the very next best thing. So I have to go to people that have something. I go ahead and I send this video to a buddy of mine. He's an engineer that I worked with when I worked at the when I worked at a place that when I was in the Navy, right? He's a very smart guy. He works for one of those places that I really shouldn't be discussing too much of, but he's a very, very knowledgeable guy. And he also works with other engineers that apparently happen to be smarter with them. So I presented to them my problem. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. And what sucked about it was that they themselves they couldn't believe that I thought that the earth was flat. Maybe I shouldn't have even mentioned to them that, hey, I think the earth is flat. But it is what it is, right? I told them what I told them, and I'm like, screw it. We just need to press. So I presented to them the problem. And what I mentioned to them was, hey, there's got to be a way in which we could harness this type of energy, right? Moonlight. And so they were like, well, isn't moonlight reflected sunlight? And I'm like, okay, well, obviously you hadn't watched my video, which is fine. It's okay. I didn't expect them to. Well, this is why we have this discussion anyway. So, yeah, they asked me that question, and I told them that's what I thought. And to some degree, that's what I still kind of think. Even though I ran the experiment myself, something deep inside of me is like, I think it's still reflected sunlight, but obviously it's not. And so, when I gave them this little problem and looking for a solution. They couldn't come up with one, not then and there. And still to this day, that was last year, January, February timeframe. They hadn't come up with anything. So I'd been brainstorming all that time. I've been brainstorming and I've been thinking, how do you hold on to moonlight? Right? Because you have solar collectors and solar cells that do these things. Yeah, yes, that's right, half warrior. But you have solar collectors or solar panels that collect sunlight. But then after you collect the sunlight, you have things like, your inverter, you have your battery and everything else like that, and things to collect this sunlight and then store it for later use, right? What about the moonlight? It's not just useless energy. It can't be. It's got to be used for something. So I'm wondering, what kind of physical material or material do we have that can do, or basically be as efficient as, I guess, it's relative what you mean or what one would consider efficient when it comes to solar collection, because a lot of people say that it's not a useful way of collecting, or rather using or harnessing energy. But I don't think that, and I think that these things are definitely useful, but we have to find a way to either use them or use them and make them better. So what do I do? How do I collect this? How do I use this moonlight? So one of the things I thought, and maybe you guys were along the same line of thinking, I don't know. I'm presenting it to you, right? One of the things I thought was maybe, maybe it's seawater. Maybe it's seawater. Maybe it's salt water. I don't know. I don't know. But we were taught, right, that salt water, or rather seawater, is affected by the movement or the proximity of the moon to the earth, which now that we know what the moon, or rather we know what the moon is not, we know that's absolute BS. I'm gonna y'all just bear with me. I'm gonna do my best to minimize the amount of cussing that I do. But now we've learned that it's absolute BS, and that now we have some sort of energy coming from that moon. So now here's what I'm thinking. Okay, it's useful energy. How do I harness it? Seawater, maybe. I don't know. But then a million things run through my head. Okay, when do we see moonlight, right? Just in general, when is moonlight prevalent? When do you see moonlight? Whether it's in real life, whether it's in a movie, whether it's on a in a comic book, whether it's on, a poster board, doesn't matter. When do you see like a moonlight or the image of a moon, a full moon, crescent moon, doesn't matter, right? When do you see these things? Well, you see them in horror flicks, right? You see them in horror comics, magazines, comic books, and stuff. You see them on a setting, for a setting of a romantic scene of some movie, whatever. Pick anything. I don't know, right? Of the romantic moonlight, right? By the light of the moon and everything else like that. But then on the flip side, you've got the evil monsters and everything else. But then you have moonlight that are involved with, pagan and Wiccan practices and everything else. Then you have images, or rather mentions of the moon, or the lunar cycle, when it comes to, Hebrew, I guess you could say, cosmology. uh, and then you have me and folks like me, right, that actually use, or rather gather, what this moon does, and then Damn. So then you have folks like us that gather what the moon does and are trying to figure the damn thing out. So let's go to the first thing that I mentioned, right? Monsters. Monsters. Obviously, one of the first monsters that we know that are affected by the moonlight, the wolf, right? Nighttime and the wolf. Vampires, often seen with a crescent moon, Castlevania, or a full moon. A vampire is like at its peak power, or a wolf is at its peak power. And then a werewolf could do what it does and go out and just terrorize the neighborhood. Excuse me as I go ahead and sip on this real quick. Got to get my coffee on in the mid afternoon. So we understand those settings in the horror films. Now, a couple of things about the moonlight and those creatures, right? So you have things like gore, you have them out at their peak. They're out to terrorize. And what do wolves typically do? They go out and they eat people, right? Um, Vampires, what do they typically do? They go out and they suck people's blood, right? Ghouls, what do they typically do? They go out, they wake up, or they're ghoulish, they do their thing, and then they eat people, or they eat dead people. Excuse me, ghouls. Um, then you have the moonlight in the setting of something that's scary. For example, the something that's scary, or just the paranormal, otherworldly, right? Ghosts, spirits, apparitions. These things, when you see them, they tend to be what? Misty. There's, a mist outside, and then you're more apt to see something like that with the full moon. the witching hour, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and something like that, then you see these crazy creatures. Now, there's some sort of energy that comes from the moon, is what I'm thinking. Some sort of energy is out there to help expose these things or to help these things become a little bit more noticeable or more prevalent to just basic eyes, right? And how our eyes work and the wavelengths at which are at the wavelengths that our eyes can see. And so now these are a little bit more easier to see. Um, these things come up. And so I'm thinking there's some kind of energy, or maybe it provides some kind of sheen or screen to let these things function or to be seen. You know what I'm saying? Uh, I'm going to get to what you thought. So, just a thought. This is from Shannon Emerson. I'm going to continue with that stream of thought. Let me see what Shannon's saying. So, just a thought. If the sun is a cathode positive charge, yes, okay, and the moon is the anode negative or neutrally charged in the Earth battery system, wouldn't the moon just sort of have the same property as the anode? Yes, it would, but just on the negative side because you need Jimmy Satterfield. All right, man, we got the family. The family's coming together. I love it. I love it. Jimmy Satterfield, how you doing, brother? Thanks for coming. But anode just takes excess positive charge just so it may be charged up by the sun. Yes, yes. And so not necessarily that it's a negative side, but Shannon Emerson, I'm thinking that yes, it gives the positive side a break, just so I guess it could recharge and do its thing again from the different side, just so it could become positive again. So you might as well just call it negative, perhaps, right? But yes, you need both. You need both to function. So in order for us to have some kind of proper energy use and or an efficient rather energy distribution. And what I mean by efficient energy distribution is like something that'll work if we have a solar collector, we should have a lunar collector. Now, going back to what I was saying with the monsters, right? The movie monsters that I mentioned. Um, so you have the werewolf that comes up and does his thing. The ghosts are seen. The werewolf does his thing because of the power of the moonlight. The vampire could do his thing because it's nighttime, and also probably full power, the power of the moonlight. But what we know that's not folklore or any myth, right, is that women tend to be affected by women have cycles, right? When a woman is born and then she reaches a certain age, her cycles begin, right? And with those cycles, eggs are produced, or eggs are produced, dropped, and stuff like, or rather, you have your eggs and then they drop. Things happen. Not going to discuss it. I got little girls, I got daughters myself. I ain't going to discuss all that, but we know what it is, right? And things happen in the woman's body. Things shed, a blood comes out, right? Cramps and everything else like that. But a woman tends to have her cycles, and those cycles tend to last. And I mentioned with Ghost of Judah Tribe, right? Those cycles tend to last however long they last. But a woman's cycle is normally around 28 days, correct? Right? 28 days ish. So it should be falling. And you are a non had a he had a special on this, but it should be a woman's cycle should fall in line with the cycle of the moon. But these days, and when it does, right? I'm going to continue with when it does, a woman should be at her strongest during those times. Now, things may be a little bit different, right? And when you think about a woman at her strongest, she could do all sorts of stuff. But also, a woman being at her strongest more than likely allows a woman to be more feminine. Hopefully that makes sense. And nothing against, hey, listen, I know these days times are hard. All right. We have to think about how this world is these days. We don't work the way we used to work way back in the day, right? People work now for money because we got to live. We have to have money as the fuel for our rocket, and our rocket should allow us to live decently at least, right? So now instead of having a single household, single earning income household, you have two people earning, right? Or one woman that might not even be married. She may be a spinster, and she's in charge of her life by herself, and now she has to provide for herself, right? So she's working. So then things like a woman's cycle tend to maybe not fall in line with what the moon is doing because of a bunch of different variations, right? You've got sleep schedule, you've got eating habits, you've got the lack of PT or working out, whole bunch of different things. She doesn't have a man in her life, maybe not, and she's not, you know, doing things to produce children, right? So all these factors weigh in to when it comes to how a woman's cycle functions. Now, with that, couple of things may be the repercussions because a woman isn't fulfilling the way her body is supposed to function. Now, I'm not blaming all women. I'm not blaming women at all. But like I said, this is just how the society is designed, and it doesn't really allow for a woman, in my opinion, allow for a woman to flourish and be her feminine and womanly self, right? Be the goddess, or the be the divine being that the woman should be, right? I don't think so. And then the proof is in the pudding when things like uh birth control, yes, birth control. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Shannon. Birth control obviously affect these things, right? And so when you screw with that, a bunch of things is going to happen. You're not going to be able to reproduce, obviously, when you should normally have reproduced, obviously, because you're on birth control or, you know, work, you don't have a man in your life, everything else. But then you're out of sync with what the moon is doing. So your energy is all messed up. And so I'm thinking the woman functions the same way with the man. Our energies are all messed up. Our energies are all messed up. And I came to that realization that our energies are all messed up today. Today. There's a video that I just finished watching. Lord have mercy. I wish there was a way in which I could do it. Hold on, let's see. I wish there was a way in which I could do it, but there was a video that I watched from one of my favorite channels, right? And her name, or rather the channel, is Redirecting. And in Redirecting, Sister Deborah, she has, man, I tell you what, she has she has an awesome following, but what she does is she deals not necessarily in cosmology, but just anything that the Bible has to offer up, right? And I'm getting to it. Give me a second. I'm getting to it. So, where is it? It's in the history section. Today, she produced a video where there was a lady that lived in Jamaica, and she turns out to be 141 years old. If you look at this woman, you wouldn't know it. She looks like she's elderly, obviously, but 141 years old, my goodness. And so, one of the things that she mentioned, actually, one of the biggest parts, one of the biggest takeaways I got from it was she mentions how she uses herbs mixed in with water, and then she chews it up, and she probably does something, makes a poultice or whatever have you. I'm not going to make any assumptions as to what she does. There it is. I went ahead and I dropped it in the top chat right there, and then you guys could take a look yourselves. Her name is Redirecting. Shout out to her. I highly recommend you check her out, and then just go ahead, show us some love and subscribe. She's got some really good insights. Either way, this lady mentions how she uses these herbs, right? And she mentions the moon. She doesn't mention the sun at all. She mentions what she does with the herbs in conjunction with the moon. And I'm sitting there like, holy smokes. Maybe she doesn't use the moon, or she doesn't think of the moon as we do. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. But she understands some basic concepts in what the moon has, the relationship the moon has with us, and I'm talking about humanity, human beings, not just, supposedly what we were taught, and now we're starting to find out that that was all lies. Not just the moon with the physical earth, but rather the moon's relationship, the moon's shine on us as human beings. And so, like I went ahead, hopefully you guys, if you guys could see it, give me a thumbs up. If you guys could see it in the top chat right there, just give me a thumbs up and let me know. I would love to play this video. I really would. But this woman, she presents it as, hey, you know what? I went ahead and I used these things. Yeah, I would think also. I'll be right back. Yeah, go ahead, do your thing, brother. So she uses those plants, those herbs, along with the timing of the month, basically. So I don't know. She didn't specify whether it's waxing time or waning time of that moon, but she did say when I think she did say when the moon is full. And so I'm sitting there like, oh my goodness. Now I'm sure she's not the first one. I've heard of other folks. Usually they happen to be women. Nothing. Notice la. Yeah, Luna. Yeah, is feminine. L is masculine. Yeah, that's right. Is Sol. El Sol is masculine. That's right. Sorry about that. But yeah, um, that's right. Good point. La Luna or La Lune in French, lunatic, Soleil in French, or the sun. Yeah, makes a woman crazy. It makes people crazy. Not just women. You ain't the only one, right? But it draws a different kind of energy out of us, where the sun comes out and then it shines its light on us. The moon comes out and I think it draws something from us. Thank you, Jimmy Satterfield. But I think it draws some kind of energy either out of us or within us, and it makes us act a certain way. It makes us act a certain way. Maybe moonlight is there to make us more apt to make love. Maybe it's there for us to just calm down and just be easy. So what that reminds me of is Psalms 19, 1 and 2 specifically. Uh the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork, right? And then it says, day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth his knowledge, right? And so, and that's what it says. If you want to look it up, you look it up, and I'm sure they have a different set of words within there, but weave what I said with what it said between those verses right there. And so day unto day uttereth speech. So when you speak, it's an active thing. Well, listening also be active as well. But when you speak, it's an action. You're actively speaking. You're speaking. People can hear it. You can physically hear it, but you can't hear knowledge, or you can't hear thought. Not physically, right? You can sit there and you can listen. You can listen. So even if you're actively listening, you're sitting back and you're receiving, you're taking. So a woman takes the receptacle in your outlet. It takes the male end. The when you're plugging something in, it's taking a male end. So when you're listening, you're taking on information. When you're displaying knowledge, you're being quiet, or when you're taking on knowledge, you're being quiet and you're listening. Nighttime allows for this. Nighttime allows for the calming effect. And so that's some form of energy. It's got to be. It's not, I'm saying it's got to be. What's my evidence? What's my proof? Well, the lack of heat, I guess you could say the lack of heat, or the difference in temperature between its shadow, right, and the moonlight that's being given to us by the moon. That's some sort of energy. Even though it looks like something is being taken away, no, that's something that's of use. So at the end of the day, I'm thinking, how is it that we use that? And I proposed seawater or salt water is one way. Perhaps it's ether. Perhaps it's in the ether. I don't know, is the ether or the medium that allows light to be seen, right? Or things to move, not involving air, perhaps, right? The ether. Maybe in the ether, there is something in which we can grasp this moonlight and we can use it to our advantage for whatever use, right? Whether it's to power your house, whether it's to heat your house, keep your cell phone charged, I don't know. Which would then, I'm thinking, either change the use of how batteries are used, or it would change how you would charge things like your cell phone, which, if that's the case, your cell phone might not even need a battery at all, but it would need some version of a solar collector or a solar cell, but then a version of a battery collector or a battery cell attached to your phone. That all you have to do is take that joker, leave it out in the sunlight, all right, depending on the time of the day of the year it is. And if you're going to get a full moon, you might as well just leave it in the moonlight as well. It gets an alternating side, and then it could get fully charged and not have to worry, oh, well, it's not light out. So you got plenty of light. You got moonlight, then you got sunlight. Then voila, your stuff is being used and your stuff is being properly charged. But it just doesn't come down to charging a cell phone or, keeping your house warm or keeping the lights on. What's the use of this energy for us as human beings, right? How does it affect us, at me being a man, you being a lady, right? And how do we use that to our advantage so we can live longer? And at the end of the day, we're searching for these answers. We're searching. Like, I made my proposal as to what it could be, right? That could help us harness this power, harness this energy, but I could be wrong. I could be grasping at straws. I don't know. Um I've got the mindset of someone that is of this world and how this world functions and the basics of how electricity functions in this world, right? You get a dang iron, you get a piece of iron, you rub a magnet alongside of it, and then you basically you turn that piece of iron into its own magnet, right? By rubbing the iron along it. Or you get a copper wire, and then you run a magnet up and down it, and then you make some kind of electricity based off of the movement of the magnet with it along that copper coil, right? So that's how we were trained. But then, with what we understand as these lies that we were being fed these last few years, I mean, now we're at the point to where we're like, all right, we know that there are things that we could do with the copper wire and the magnet, or the iron filing, or the iron bar and the magnet. But then, now that we see that the sun is the cathode, the moon is the anode, or the positive and the negative, or the law of correspondence in general, positive, negative, up, down, left, right, as above, so below. Once we understand this principle and we understand it thoroughly, we've now come to the point to where there is more. There's more that we could do with what we get, or what we have, as opposed to just what just what we've been taught. You know what I'm saying? There's a way out. And I think I honestly believe that these guys know these. And what I say by these guys, I'm talking about these energy companies. If you look at, even if you take a look at the list of patents, right? What technological patents there are out there. These things are a public record. And so once they've been submitted, you could see what these and anybody can make a patent for something. I have a patent, right? I have a patent for a technology of my own. All right. I'm not even going to get into that, maybe another time. But anybody can make a patent for anything. But with these patents, a lot of times they come up with diagrams, examples, and the results of their patent. So you have a patent for gravitational devices or gravitational things, right? Or things that, when I say gravitational, just bear with me. I understand that gravity is something, you know what I'm saying? Something that opposes the fall of an object and keeps it either to hover or to just shoot up, right? These things have already been identified, and they've already been patented. Let's see. Give me a second. A lot of these elite witches and sorcerer types do rituals during the full moon when it's in full power up, I suppose. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a really good point, Shannon Emerson. Right. And so that's a good point is people that understand the power of the moon, right? Because we know what the sun could do. Everybody knows what the sun could do, but we're super limited in our scope of understanding of what the sun could do. Even still, even though that's one we rely on heavily, that's just one piece of the puzzle. Even our understanding, even our super limited understanding of what the sun could do or the power that it offers is limited, right? But then we know far even less with what the moon could do. And so I'm thinking, imagine, just imagine if we had an as if we had as much knowledge of what the moon could do with as much knowledge with what we know with what the sun could do. Imagine how much better, how much more beneficial this life would be or could be to us, right? How much more we could do with our bodies, how much more we could do with our minds, how much more we could do with our relationships with one another if we understood that basic principle of what the moon really is or how the moon really functions. Because right now we have no idea. Like I said, I'm grasping at straws. We're grasping at straws. And then you have a lot of those detractors and them naysayers out there that talk about, well, it ain't gonna put money in my pocket or this or that. Not everything's about not everything's about money. I was about to add an expletive in there. Not gonna do that. Not now. But not everything is about money. You understand what I'm saying? And so there's a lot more to life than money. There's life. You know what I'm saying? And then there's love, and then there's relationships, and then there's learning, and then there's understanding, and then there's speaking, right? And there's grasping at straws, but hell, we're here. We're trying to get it. We're trying to learn it. Let's see what you guys got halfway. I think Tesla in his time was discovering lots of things you're speaking of. Yes, I think Tesla understood these things, right? And maybe I'm talking stuff and Tesla would look at me and be like, "Man, you don't even know the half of it." And to him, I agree. I agree. But at least we're in the park of stopping where we are. We're not traveling down the wrong path. Us in this group, us speaking amongst ourselves right now, we think on a different wavelength, right? We think a little bit different from the layperson. And we understand that there's a lot more that this world offers us than just what we see and what we physically experience. We understand there's a lot more to this realm than we know. But at least we know that. At least we know that, and we're exploring different avenues. We're looking elsewhere to see, hey, there may be an answer. And with that answer, there's going to be a lot more questions, a million more questions. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the answer that we came up with is the right answer at all. But at least we know that's some sort of starting point that'll allow us to branch off into different avenues and allow us to see things different. And so part of that is understanding the sun and the moon at large. So I'm going back to the video with the Jamaican lady. This lady is from Jamaica, right? My parents, they come from a place, my family and my lineage, they come from a place that ain't too far from Jamaica. They come from Haiti. My parents are Haitian. I'm of Haitian descent, right? And so in general, folks in my family tend to just live a long ass time. Anybody that's Jamaican or West Indian or anything like that, y'all know what the hell I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? We eat different. The food that we eat compared to a lot of what folks that come from new time, I'm going to say new time America, and then I'm going to refer to that here in a second, that come from new time America, we eat different foods, right? um our diets are different. The things that how we function, how we move a lot of times is different. Now I'm not saying we're different people. That's not what I'm saying. But a lot of times our day-to-day activity is based on a more of a West Indian Caribbean, which traces itself back to Arawaki and a Western African lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's Benin, whether it's Congo, stuff like that. It's a Western African traditional lifestyle. So that's diet, that's watering ourselves, that's how we bathe, how we move, and everything else. So we're a very active people. We love to work out, we like to dance, we like to smile, we like to be happy. And I think a lot of it isn't only incumbent about, it's not only incumbent on the physical things, but it's also the spiritual aspect too, right? I'm not trying to just I'm not trying to be all over the place. The point that I'm making is that she has done things and she has lived some traditional lifestyle that works and is effective for her. In that video, one of the things she says is something that I firmly believe and that I've even said myself, and I'm sure everybody in this chat has said at some point, that God makes every plant for every ailment here. It's here on this earth. God makes it, right? God makes it. If every disease we have, if every disease that we get, every dis-ease within our body, or every drop in vibration that we have in our body is an action, there is an equal and opposite counterpart. There is something to fix it here on this earth. God is providing. I firmly believe that God offers the answers. He created the answers here on this earth, right? Maybe you might have to go to a different region because of the difference in climate, different in pressure, altitude, you name it, right? Soil type, acidity within the soil, whatever. Maybe those may be different, that would allow for those types of herbs and plants and stuff like that to grow and to thrive. But they're here. They're here. So there's an issue when you have us going to continents like Africa, South America, hell, even some spots in Europe, and we just waylay these lands and we destroy them. You know what I'm saying? We milk them of their resource, and we don't put back anything of use back into, not necessarily the population, but back into the earth, right? Because it doesn't matter how much money you got. Don't matter how much money you got. If your body ain't functioning right, if your mind's not functioning right, or if your heart and your spirit isn't functioning right, the rest of this, it's not even going to work. So it doesn't even matter. Case in point. Few years back, I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure you guys do if you're of my age or even a little bit younger. I'm sure you guys remember. But there was a one Steve Jobs. If I'm not mistaken, Steve Jobs Steve Jobs was a technical pioneer. He created Apple, half warrior. I'm gonna get to that here in a second. I'm gonna get to that. Oh, okay. So Steve Jobs created an empire, right? That was Apple. When I was a kid, Apple was a pretty decent, they had IBM, Apple, Commodore, uh, Tandy, and stuff like that. I'm sure you guys could spit them all out, especially for all you computer heads out there. But Steve Jobs created an empire with the Apple, right? Apple seemed to have been dropping off at some point until the end of the 90s when he picked it back up and he made Apple the thing to start to begin to use. Even though Apple wasn't as effective as, at least I didn't think it was effective as Windows and DOS and all that stuff, everybody was still on the Windows tip. Apple had something different to offer. A lot of folks from the West Coast tended, not a lot, but people that tended to live on the West Coast sought to use Apple a little bit more than they did Windows. Why? I have no idea. It is what it is. But then Apple got big, right? At the end of the 90s, into the 2000s, we all know what happened. The touch screen stuff, the touch this, you touch that, the iPhone, the iPad, the i this, the i that, the iHop, the iRack, you name it. He had an eye everything. Everything had eyes on it. That joker had more eyes than a dang, a blind freaking spider. Thing had mad eyes on it, had eye everything. So I'm making that point to make this is that he built an empire off of a couple of products, more than a couple, but just a few very strong, good products. But then what happened? My man ended up getting the big C, pancreatic. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with those different types of cancer, but one of the cancers that if you get it, it's a wrap. My man had pancreatic cancer. And then from then, his life, his physical body started to decline. And we could see physically the effects that the cancer had taken on his body. Now I don't know if he had done a chemotherapy therapy or radiotherapy or anything like that. Excuse me. Let me go grab this sip real quick. But what I do know is that he was obviously dying. Now, I'm sure there were people out there praying for him. There were people out there hoping that my man pulled through and everything else. But he did everything he could do to live the life that he wanted. He just wanted to live. He wanted to live. He didn't want to sit there and BS. He didn't want to sit there and make no board meetings. He just wanted what everybody wants. It's just to live. That's it. You just want your life. That's it. And one of the things that he said that I'll never forget, I'm sure you could find that quote out there. But one of the things that Steve Jobs said was, I'm going to paraphrase, but my kingdom for a brand new pancreas. My kingdom for a brand new pancreas. My man was out there like Esau and Jacob, basically asking for stew because he was hungry. Ain't that crazy? All that money, all that notoriety and fame, all that power and wealth and everything that he had. My man had the technological world at the palm of his hands, eating out the palm of the other. But his life was soon to be forfeit. He was soon to die. And there was nothing he could do about it. There's no pleading with God. There's no amount of money that could have saved his life. But what do we always attribute our feats of excellence to? Modern medicine. Modern medicine. All those doctors couldn't do shit for him. All them doctors out there bragging about, we got cutting edge technology to do this, we could do this, we could do that. But these dudes couldn't save his life. Now, I'm not going to say that maybe he had something spiritually wrong for him, something spiritually wrong for him. I don't know. I don't necessarily know the type of lifestyle that Steve Jobs lived. I don't know if maybe he had wronged somebody and they cursed him. I don't know. I don't know if he was just physically poisoned and then his body just couldn't turn the tables for him to live a little bit longer. I don't know. But what I do know is that he was super short on time when he was sick and his time was running out fast. So then there were a couple of things that I thought, because at that time I was like, man, we got the iPad. My man could figure out how to take a cell phone and to take this thing and make it even better. You know what I'm saying? How did he manage to do that? How did he do that? Turn this touch screen, talk with people there, make the camera more effective, add music to it. I'm like, man, ain't nothing better than the iPad or the iPhone. I never had one, but seeing people use it, they were plenty satisfied with it. But then I thought, well, he created all this great stuff. Why can't this Joker save his own life? How come he can't create something? How can you, make a motherfucking pancreas? You know what I'm saying? Make a pancreas, stick it in your body, make it do what it do, and live. Make something in your brain that will allow you to transfer your consciousness into that thing, and you can live a little bit longer. Maybe life won't be as good. You won't be able to have sex or anything cool like that, but at least you'll be able to live a little bit longer. No, none of that. None of that shit worked for him. None of that worked for him. And then ultimately, he ends up losing his life. How does death feel? I don't know. But I could tell you that Or not that I could tell you because I've never died before, but I'm sure there are folks that have been close to death. I've been close to death. There were times where, I was 23 years in the military. I had my moments, right? Sure, there were people out there that have been close to death and have experienced the pain before transitioning, and then they came back, right? There are plenty of stories out there. I'm sure we could find them, right? But there were people that experienced pain, a lot of pain before transitioning, a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, right? Before going over to the other side. But then, is it necessary? If we know that God has the answer for us here on this earth, for us to live a clean, fruitful, but not just clean and fruitful, but a long life. I understand the physical world isn't everything, but that's easy to say when you have both limbs. It's easy to say when you have both legs and you're comfortable, when your environment is warm and you have people that love you all the time. Those things are easy to say when you don't have any physical ailments. It's easy to say that this life should be lived longer, and it's easy to say that oh, everything is hunky dory. I should live an extra 120 years, max my life out at 120 years, right? But then, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Nope. Nope. Excuse me. So then when you come across that point, it's just, it's just, you think the technology ain't shit. There has got to be something else out there. Now, the only problem is that we're limited in the scope of what it is we can do. What am I talking about? Today, I just learned, and I'll probably go ahead and I'll drop it in the description box at the end of this video, but I learned a young girl, I think out in Colorado or somewhere like that, a young girl just got arrested because she was tending to her honeybees. Did y'all hear what I said? A young girl got arrested because she was tending to her honeybees. I'm not going to say if that's a problem or not, but obviously that's an issue. You know what I'm saying? Now you can't even tend to your own apiary. When I lived in Hawaii, they were getting to a point that Monsanto was pressing the government to keep people. This was back in 2015, 2016 when I lived out in Hawaii. They were pressing the government to not allow people to grow their own fruits and vegetables in their backyard. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have ever lived in Hawaii or ever visited Hawaii even. But if a normal person owns a piece of property in Hawaii, it's not that much. And when I say Hawaii, I'm not talking about Kauai. I'm not talking about Hawaii Island, big Hawaii, right? I'm talking about the island of Oahu. I'm not talking about Maui. I am talking about Oahu, where Pearl Harbor, Honolulu, Kunia, all these things is there, right? Now everybody has their small bit of land for the most part. Everybody that lives a normal lifestyle, right? And with your small piece of land, whether your family passed it down to you or you bought it yourself, a lot of times, what do you have? You have things like mango, breadfruit. Especially if you're living in the North Shore, you have mango, breadfruit, papaya, you name it, growing on your property. Avocado, lime. Hawaii is just mad fertile. It's mad fertile. But then Monsanto was pressing the government, and this is in 2015, 2014, 2016, to not allow people to grow their own food. So, with that, you have to think, if you're not going to let me grow something that we know is possible, you're not allowing me to grow my own food. Why? Why can't I grow something that I know is clean? At least we know what we grow, and we know what kind of soil we're using or what kind of soil is under our feet for the most part, right? And we understand what our fruit or what our fruit tree is going to produce and how much it should produce in a year. And then we eat our own stuff. But at least you know where it's coming from and you can at least tend to it Problem these days is that before we get to that point to where we're like, I'm sick, I need the technology, they don't even want us doing the bare bones basics. So now we've come to where it's like we need to understand what's the sun and the moon doing, right? Right now we have no we think it just provides heat, and then you want to know something? Nobody knows what the hell the moon is doing. The only thing we're taught is, oh, it goes around the earth. It never changes its face because it's the rotation of the moon is in sync with the earth. The rotation of the moon is in sync with the earth. You ever heard of some dumb bullshit like that? That's what we're taught, right? It's in sync with the earth. That's why it never changes its side. That's why it never changes that's why it never changes its face. Now, of us of the true earth, us that understand what this true earth is, we know that it offers something. What we don't know, but it has to be part of what helps us to sustain a longer life. Now, I highly recommend you guys take a look at that video that I put in that top chat of ours. At the end of this video, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it in the description box so then we could see it and then we can enjoy it afterwards. But I find it telling that this old Jamaican woman, 141 years old, can use the power of the moon and boldfacedly say it. I use the moon. I mix the herbs and I pick the herbs at the right time. Do you know that people don't chop down certain trees? And I didn't even know about this, but people don't chop down certain trees. I don't know it fully, but until the moon is at a certain phase. It blew my mind. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Now, Shannon Emerson, you mentioned, Wiccans and pagans using the moon cycles and a full moon powered up to do certain things. We know this. We know this. We know this whether it's through lore or through stories or through tradition, from what we know from even our old school families, right? We know that they use the moon, but now we're starting to learn that it's used for something else. And we even experiment that it's being used for something else altogether, totally. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's an amazing thing. And it brings us back to what this earth is not, right? And we know that it's not. We know that it's not. Because how could these jokers go ahead and land a probe on something? It's like saying, "Hey, I landed I landed on the projection this movie, projection. I landed on that actual projection." It's like, no, you didn't. You can't. You couldn't have. It doesn't make any sense for you to. But we're being fed a line saying that, oh, we landed on this body, we landed on the moon, we landed on Bennu, we landed on this, we landed on that. Just the other day, NASA's talking this nonsense saying, hey, they have a meteorite that's 64 geese long, 64 or 67 geese long, geese Canadian, 67 Canadian geese long is what NASA's saying. And these are the people that we're going to for medicine. These are the people that we're going to get healed. These are okay. These are the same folks that are telling us that we need to decrease our numbers here on this realm. These are the same folks that are telling us you don't need your appendix. The same folks that are telling us you don't need your pinky toe. You might not need that extra kidney. These are the same. I mean, think about this. These people are telling us this, and then they sum it all up by telling us, yes, we landed on the earth. Yes, this earth does do a pirouette and travel at 66,000 miles an hour around the sun. Yes, we're chasing the sun that goes at 500,000 miles an hour. Yes, the sun is the earth is spinning at 1100 miles an hour and the moon follows it. This is what they're teaching us, but yet this is also the same stuff that they want us to believe. So we have to find a way, and we're finding ways. And I highly recommend you guys take whatever I've done and just make it better, add on to it, do other things. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing my due diligence, trying to figure out what the heck this moonlight does, what the hell this moonlight is, because I have no idea. I have no idea. I know it gives us light. I know it gives us light, but what is the use of that light? We see it with what that Jamaican lady does. Shannon Emerson, you mentioned uh the things that the benefits, or at least what the witches and the sorcerers figured that the moonlight does. Now, another thing that I know is that folks will take pails of water or a tub of water and leave it exposed to full moon, and they call it moon water. I'm hearing about this stuff and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, moon water. I don't know what the hell moon water does. I ain't even going to sit here and lie to you. I have no idea what a moon water does. No idea. None. You know what I'm saying? But what are the effects of the moon water? What are the effects of the water, right? Post its exposure to moonlight. There's this Japanese gentleman, I forgot his name. It would kind of help if I remember these things from my sources for my video. They would kind of help. But his claim to fame and his bread and butter is him recognizing the power of water, right? Water being, I guess, imprinted upon. What I mean by that is water retains some sort of memory. So I find that telling because now I don't know if it's a distilled water or if it's anything like that, like a deionized water. I don't know, but just water in general. Water functions like a disc. So when you speak good words to the water, it forms harmonizing looking structures, harmonizing looking crystal type things, right? When you cuss at the water, or you give it bad intent, or you lay your heart out and give evil, bad intent to the water. You provide a misshapen structures all throughout the water, right? And so this is what we're taught, but this is what we know is that we have some amount of water, we're made of some appreciable amount of water and clay. As per what the scriptures say, we're made of clay as well, right? But if we know these things, this is why if you get cussed at, or if you get told off, or if you're constantly being spoken down on, right? It brings your spirit down. It lowers your vibration. If you constantly keep getting cussed, you probably have more of a propensity of getting sick, right? Yeah, don't cuss the water. Don't cuss the water. Always bless the water. Bless the water. But you have more of a propensity probably to get sick, which leaves me with a few conclusions. When you speak with somebody, do your best, even if you don't like the person, right? Do your best to not speak ill to that person, because anything you say will bounce off them and stick to you. Possibly. There's a possibility that these things could happen. Also, you have to think about this, right? W- if we have some if we have power in what it is we say, right? We can either bless and uplift, or we can curse and bring down, just with our words and our thoughts. Also our thoughts alone, right? Just those two things, you can make a lot happen, right? You can, when I'm sure when Jesus turned water into wine, maybe it was with the power of his intention, also his voice. um this is why things like understanding how the moon functions is so important. Just like our voice, day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge, right? Our voice is some sort of energy, and it has an effect. You yell loud enough, you could probably shatter this thing, right? You could probably bring it up to some resonance point and break it. You do this, people do it with crystal glasses all the time. They have singers that do it. I'm sure at one point Mariah Carey could do it, right? She could bring her voice to a certain pitch and shatter a glass. Your voice has power. Your words and your intentions have power. So that's why I kind of referred back to I know seem like I'm all over the place, but the point I'm trying to illustrate here is, what are these powers, right? What are these powers of the moonlight, the sunlight, intent in general? And how can we use them to our advantage? How could we use them to make ourselves better at the end of the day? How could we use them to make ourselves live longer and to make our neighbors better, right? And so things like praying, right? Because if you want things to express themselves on the outside before it even gets to that point, you have to work on the things inside. You have to start small. And even though that doesn't seem like it's small, or it's, to some people, it may seem like it's small, it's a big thing because you got to start at some point, right? So I think it's Matthew, and there I go with my lack of resource right now. But I think it's Matthew 17, chapter 17, verse 19, 20, and 21 or 22. One of those verses is missing in a lot of these newer Bibles, right? One of those verses is missing. But in that verse, it talks about the power of prayer and fasting, right? Those two are like the they're like the Ren and Stimpy, or they're like the, I don't know. They're like the Tom and Jerry of living and of life, is praying and fasting. So then that way the things that you say can work and be a little bit more effective. There's a good possibility that prayer and fasting, right? Committing to it and doing it on a scheduled basis will help us to clear our minds, make things like our pineal gland or the crystal that's within us function properly, help us vibrate more, right? And then when you vibrate more, a few things will happen. I could tell you. Um, when you I could tell you, when you put things like a crystal under pressure, it vibrates, it changes its frequency, right? Um, I'll get to that here in a second. But when you press of a crystal, it vibrates different. It changes its frequency. Depending on the type of crystal that it is, depending at the angle at which you cut it, these are things that help watches function. These are things that help anything with a timing source, your timing source being the crystal. Anything with one of those help it uh transmit a certain frequency. So within us, there is a timing source. Maybe that timing source is either our pineal gland. Maybe that timing source is our pineal gland, or maybe it's our heart, right? So one of the things you should do in order to make that timing source function properly, right off the bat, hey, I was military. PT. You work out. This is why working out, sweating, bringing your body up to release salts, right? To release those bad things, to increase the blood flow in your body. That blood will allow for your body to accept that blood into places that hadn't seen that blood in a long time. A lot of those, especially for some of us guys, your happy parts, you know what I'm saying? You're starting to get blood flow down there. It makes you it makes you feel like a different guy. It makes you feel like a different person. It changes your mood. It then in turn, it is changing your internals, right? It's changing your mood. And when it does that, you then it then allows you to not only function different, but it also allows you to think different. If you think different, you'll be more apt to trying new things, or to seeing things from a different perspective. So all of you in the globe camp, I'm sure seeing things from a different perspective. You know what? I'm not here to make fun of globe people. No, I'm just here to provide some kind of education, and possibly if you could look at life from a different perspective, a different angle. If you can change the amount of volts you're sending to your mind, it will allow for you to do things like pray. It'll allow for you to take a risk and to fast even. Now, real quick, let me jump over to what uh, Half Warrior saying. I can't feel the left side of my body, but daily self talks makes a huge impact on my body. I feel more pain when I'm negative to myself. Absolutely. Yes, you will feel more pain. And when you're negative to yourself, that's a very good point. When you're more negative, you're more drawn, you're more earth-like, right? When you're more negative, even in the water, when you're more negatively buoyant, guess what happens? You sink. When you're more negatively buoyant, you sink. However, if you're more on the neutral side, if you're all on the positive side, right? You're right, Shannon. I'm assuming we all work low people. But if you're more on the positive side, you tend to not sink as much. If you're neutrally buoyant, you just hover. If you're positively buoyant, you're probably a little bit fat, but you float, right? You float. Me, I'm a swimmer, right? I wasn't always a swimmer. Born and raised in New York City, Brooklyn, right? And then I got to swimming later on in life. And then I became a Navy diver. And then I was swimming all the time. But here's the thing: if I didn't have a wetsuit on, I was constantly I was constantly fighting the water, right? I could tread, but one of my things is my body is so muscularly dense that it made me sink. I even had the guys when I was in dive school tell me this is how that because I was black, that black people have an extra muscle and that's why we sink. Hand to the most high. That's what these jokers would tell me. And they were serious. They wasn't joking. They were totally serious. Anyway, aside from all that. Yes. So when you're more negative half warrior, yes, you're going to be experiencing more pain. You're going to be experiencing more of what this world is. You're going to experience you're going to experience cold more. But imagine, let's take this for example. Imagine if you're in love with someone or you feel the love of someone, and I mean you feel it. When you feel that love from somebody or you're in love with somebody and they reciprocate that love back to you, guess what? You don't remember that you busted your leg, or you may, but it's a dull pain. Or you don't remember that it's raining on top of you while you're kissing this woman that you love. Instead, you're outside and it's wet. Big deal. Big deal that it's 48 degrees outside and it's wet at the same time. You're kissing this woman that you love. This is things that the positive things do to your body. And now I'm sure there's a chemical reaction somewhere in there too, right? Of course there is. But there's a difference between thinking positive and providing the positivity to your soul and your inner core than when you do with your positive. So that's a very good point, Half Warrior. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. I pray I'm going to provide you intent. I'm going to give you prayer and I'm going to pray that you get better, brother. You know what I'm saying? And not just because you're one of my people, but also because I know how it feels to be ailing. I haven't been in your shoes or in your position, but I know what it feels like to have some disability on my body and to be ailing and to not be able to do certain things. So I'm going to provide my intent and I'm going to pray for you and I'm going to see to it that that the most high gives you his love. He shines upon you with his intent, his love, and his healing rays so that you can get better and we can see you here on Truer Tuesday every week, you know. And on to Shannon. And yeah, you got it, brother. Anytime, anytime. I see it that the creator is love and Satan's evil demons, all of the above is hate and fear. And the more love energy you put out, even to your enemies, it can change anyone. That's right. That's right. Because hate breaks you down, and hate or evil intent brings down your vibration. And it makes you more, it just does. It makes you more susceptible to disease. it makes you more attractive to ill-intending people into your life to hurt and to harm you. This is why it's crazy. This is why a lot of times we tend to attract we attract oftentimes what we are. We tend to attract the positive people into our lives because we're positive. We tend to attract negative or more not as positive people into our lives because that's where we're vibing at. It sounds like a super new age hippie type thing, but that's what our vibration is putting out. So that's what falls in line with what we're providing the world. Um, that's the law. I guess that's part of the law of attraction. That's what you're going to get back. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you want that to change, then change it, right? Change it. That's all. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, Part of changing it, I hate to say it, but I have to say it. Part of changing it is going out and if you're not going to work out and do jumping jacks and all that craziness, walk. Walk half a mile. Increase it 100 yards every week. Just start out at half a mile or hell, even quarter of a mile. Just walk, right? Work up a sweat. When you do things, when you work up a sweat from working out, it's totally different from sweating because of stress. Those are two different types of sweats, and you could smell the difference between the types of sweats too. You know what I'm saying? So this is a type of energy that you're making for your body. You're basically putting your body under duress. Little by little, you're putting your body under duress and stress. And you know what you are? You are the crystal. You putting that body under stress, and just like the crystal being put in that electromagnetic vice, guess what it does? It screams. It puts out a frequency. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the piezoelectric effect or the piezoelectric effect, right? What that is when you take a crystal and you put it under pressure and then it provides you a voltage. It gives you a voltage. It's vibrating. It's literally vibrating and it provides you a voltage. Another way you can do something of the sort and give you a piezoelectric effect, right? Is if you take, I don't know if you guys are familiar with certs. Remember them candies back in the day? The little mint candies that we used to eat, certs. Take a piece of certs, or actually two pieces of certs. Take them, go in a dark room, rub them together. You're effectively causing a piezoelectric effect, right? I don't know what it would look like if you would squeeze them together. Maybe you get the same thing, or if you crush them together and then it gives off sparks. Possibly, yes. That's the piezoelectric effect, the piezoelectric phenomena coming into effect. That's that right there. You know what I'm saying? Basically, what I'm saying right now is what you're doing to your body when you put it under some kind of good stress, i.e., working out, whether you work out because you're walking or whether you work out because you're doing a series of push ups and you're making your body sweat. This will allow you for your body to pump blood everywhere and then help change your mind. Change your mind for the better. Change your mind for the better. And then it'll help. And things like praying and fasting ultimately become so much easier at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Doing things like what I mentioned in Matthew 17, 20 to 23, 20 to 22 are possible because now it's coming into your mind as, hey, this is something beneficial, right? And it's not work. It just becomes, and then once you start adding it to your routine, it becomes part of your daily or weekly, however much you fast, right? It becomes part of a routine, so it becomes part of your life, which then extends your life. And when these are small steps, little things. When you add these little things into your life, it allows for you to vibrate higher, to vibrate at a higher frequency that will allow for that will introduce you to different beings, different opportunities, a different lifestyle potentially in your life. What do you guys think? Yay or nay? I say yay all day. Hey, hey, hey. And that's what I say. It's like, let me stop. Anyway, YouTube family, Aaron, Rumble family, unless we have something to add, which I would love to hear from you guys. I would love to hear what it is you guys have to add to this discussion, right? Um, this is the first fresh out for Flat Earth Tuesday, or excuse me, for True Earth Tuesday. Excuse me, I messed up the title to my own show, but this is the first out for True Earth Tuesday. Share it with your friends, share it with your loved ones, share it with those that are out there trying to figure things out about this realm, and then bring them here to True Earth Tuesday if they have that time. Typically, I'm going to start having True Earth Tuesday later on in the day. However, I have an engagement later on to where I cannot tonight, right? I have a whole bunch of stuff I have to do around my house. So it's going to be rather difficult. But typically, Truer Tuesday will be between the hours of 7:30 and 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, just because I understand people are working and living and doing everything else. So, uh, with me sitting there flapping my gums, if you have anything, I'd love to hear about it. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to discuss with you guys, the family, what you guys have coming down the pipe. So, I don't know how you guys came upon the true and level earth, but I'll tell you what, I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm still I'm still in this I'm still in awe. I'm still amazed at how this world functions, or how I see it to possibly function. And I'm saying to see it to possibly function because everything that we've been taught is an absolute lie. From the shape of this earth to what's in the sky. Absolute lie. Absolute lie. And thank you, Half Warrior. I try to make it a productive gum flapping session. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, Jimmy Satterfield, I feel you. I'm learning new stuff every day. I learn new stuff every day. So I don't take for granted anything that anybody's saying, unless obviously it's an obvious lie, like the world is a ball. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. Unless it's an obvious lie, like oh, the world is a ball and we see blah blah blah, this and that, the third. We know that those are lies, and we can't rely on those spewing nonsense like that. And we know that they hold no water, and that holds no credibility. At least with how we see this world, we can prove that scientifically all day long, right? And so, yeah, seeing the true Earth and understanding this world for what it is has been it's been a roller coaster ride, right? It hasn't been easy, but nothing worth having, nothing worth experiencing, nothing worth experiencing comes easy. And if it comes hard, you appreciate it, right? If it comes hard, and when you speak about it, you speak about it with truth, with conviction, and with passion. You have no problem saying to somebody what the truth is, because it's the truth. Um we've gotten a place, we've gotten to a place in this world where those that value the truth. But then those that don't know the truth don't know that they should be valuing the truth, if that makes any sense. Kind of like if you try to mention to somebody that this earth is not a ball, and they flip on you, and they don't know that it's not a ball, like they'll flip on you and lose their minds. Like you said, Shannon Emerson, um, we were all once Globers. And yeah, we have to relearn everything. But I think part of the joy of relearning everything is that we know that we're learning the truth. I always equate it to being an alcoholic. I always equate it to being, that guy that's been drinking your whole life, been drinking alcohol. And then your body can take it either one or two ways. Your body can either accept the fact that you're an alcoholic, drink water, and change your body's chemistry, and thus change your lifestyle around, or it can accept the fact that it's an alcoholic and continue to drink alcohol, and then ultimately you're going to die some death, right? and you'll probably might not have ever experienced what being sober is like. Or maybe you've just developed such a tolerance for alcohol that your body's constantly in living in a world of being pickled. You know what I'm saying? Nothing against folks that drink alcohol. I tend to sip on it from time to time, but I try not to overindulge. But still, even, right? You drinking that water is something that's fulfilling, clean, and true to what your body should be accepting. Alcohol is something that doesn't necessarily give back to your body, it just takes away from what your body's trying to process and accomplish. That's the same thing with these globe lies and all these other lies that we're being fed day in, day out. And so now that we've been exposed to what the water is, wrong about a lot of ideas, but I don't want to pretend lie. Lies are truth. That's right. Right. And so now that we're being exposed to what the water is, the real water, like once you see it, you can't go back. Once you see it, you can't see it. You can't say it any other way either. And if you lie to people that, yeah, it's a globe, yeah, it's a globe, it's painful having a lie. It's painful having a lie. That was me for 6 months when I first learned about the earth being what it is. That was me. When I tell people that don't like hearing about what this earth is, when I tell them, hey man, it's flat. And then seeing the look on their face, I don't even feel bad. I'm just like, it's flat. It is what it is. I'm sorry. Sorry if you think it's still a ball, but it's flat. Maybe you need to take your butt outside and check it out. Do some due diligence. You know what I'm saying? Check it out. See what this earth is. Um, this Bible, these scriptures tell us wholeheartedly exactly what this earth is. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you too. My name is Vlad, by the way, Vladimir. So no joke, it's my name. Or you could call me Blackula or Count Chocula. Anyway, but the Bible tells you exactly what it is. The Quran even follows up the Bible or the scriptures or the Torah, however which way you want to put it, tells you exactly what this earth is. And then the Quran even follows up and tells you exactly what this realm is. And the thing is the Quran refers to the Torah or the Bible. It refers to the scriptures oftentimes. You know what I'm saying? Eric, nice to meet you, brother. So it refers to the scriptures oftentimes. And so it refers to the scriptures because it knows that the scriptures are correct. It knows that the scriptures are telling the truth. And so it's giving its version based off of what the scripture says, it's giving the truth as well. It's like, well, using this as a reference, blah, 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 this, that, the third, this is the earth, right? Mountains around us and everything else. Ice wall, flat plane. It is what it is. The earth is a level plane. It's a flat and level plane. I didn't make it. I just live here. I didn't create it. I'm just like you. I'm just trying to live and enjoy this life that I have, right? But while I'm living here, damn it, I want the truth. Don't sit here bullshitting me. Don't sit here blowing smoke up my ass. Don't lie to me. Don't mistreat me. Don't poison me, right? Tell me the truth. Give me something that'll nourish my heart, mind, soul, so I can pass on to my kids something that will nourish their hearts, their minds, their souls, and my viewers, something that I could pass on to you, your heart, your minds, your souls, something that you guys could show me and teach me what I can learn and what can nourish my soul, heart, and mind, my being. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, man, I'm over here gassing it up with y'all family, but I'm gonna have to let y'all go because I gotta roll. Anyway, I wish y'all nothing but the best. YouTube and Rumble family, I wish y'all nothing but the best. Health, wealth, love, joy, prosperity. Most of all, wisdom. And with that, before I say goodbye, I would like to thank Shannon Emerson, Half Warrior, Jimmy Satterfield. Where you at? Where you at? Half Warrior, Jimmy Satterfield, Flat Out Fudge. Oh Lord, Flat Out Fudge, what a crazy name. Erica, Mama used to say, go check her page out. Mama used to say was in the house for a little bit. She checked me out. I appreciate you. I love you, sis. She checked me out. Shannon Emerson, Half Warrior, as usual. Y'all be coming through, whether it's with me or Ghost of Judah and doing Flat Earth Friday with him. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Jimmy Satterfield, thank you. For all you brothers and sisters that came in here today and shared True Earth Tuesday with me for the first time, I appreciate you. I love you. I respect you. And I wish you nothing but the best. And let me finish with that. The best: health, wealth, love, joy, prosperity, most of all, wisdom. And with that, I love you. I'm out. May the Most High guide you, me, and everyone in our circle. Love you. I'm out. Peace.